Yesterday, I sat down with a blessed friend of mine, Pastor Randolph, and he started talking with me about the story of when David slew Goliath and how King Saul tried to equip David with his own armor and weapons. He dressed David in his tunic, put a bronze helmet on his head, and gave him a sword. However, David realized that he couldn't walk in them because he was not accustomed to them. So David took them off, and David took his staff in his hand, selected 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. And with his sling in hand, he approached the Philistine. With this story of little boy David slaying the giant, Pastor Randolph counseled me on how David recognized his inability to wear Saul's armor, and instead he relied on what he knew best: his staff, a sling, and 5 smooth stones. These seemingly ordinary tools became instrumental in his extraordinary victory over the giant. David placed his trust in the Lord's provisions of his God-given gifts rather than relying on conventional weapons. This demonstrated David's profound faith in God's power. David could have succumbed to fear or doubt, but instead he drew strength from his relationship with the Almighty. David understood that it was not the weapons he would wield that determined the outcome, but the trust he placed in God's guidance. We too must learn to recognize and trust in the unique gifts and abilities that God has bestowed upon each of us, trusting in what God has given us. David understood that victory could not be found in Saul's armor or weapons, but in his trust in the Lord. Despite the overwhelming odds, David chose to rely on the tools that he was familiar with: the shepherd's staff, stones, and sling. These were the instruments he had used to protect his sheep from predators. David recognized that his trust in the Lord and the skills he had developed as a shepherd were more than enough to face any giant that came his way. David's faith was grounded in his intimate relationship with the Lord. He knew that his victory would come from the hand of God, not from his own strength. The outcome of David's trust in the Lord was a single stone guided by God's hand that struck Goliath in the forehead, and the giant fell to the ground. David's refusal to rely on human strength or worldly armor allowed him to achieve the impossible. Likewise, in our lives, we often face overwhelming giants, fears, doubts, and challenges that seem insurmountable. But if we trust in the Lord, use the gifts he has given us, and step forward in faith, we too can experience victories beyond our imagination. Let us be encouraged today to embrace our unique gifts, to trust in the Lord's provision, and to step forward in faith, knowing that he will empower us to overcome any giant we may face. May we be like David, slaying the Goliaths in our lives, not by our own might, but by the power of our trust in the Lord. May God bless and keep you, my friends, in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen.